will fight. And they will die. For how else is a champion to be born?
Elden Ring, Ellen, it's nearly out,
Yeah!
and I have been in the fortunate position of being able to play the first 6 hours of the game. So this is post-network test. This was a preview opportunity to play 6 hours of the game from the very beginning, from the opening cinematic.
None of your demo stuff.
I wasn't allowed to record my footage, so the footage you are seeing is footage that we got from the network test and some new B-roll, and that explains why the footage is cool and has no heads-up display and isn't me being killed over and over again by the same boss. What I want to make the case for, Ellen, is why Elden Ring should be the first Soulsborne game that you play. If you've not played one of these, this should be the first, and here are 7 reasons why. First off, you're not going to get lost. I think this is a series that's famous for dropping you into a world with absolutely no instruction or guidance of where to go. And I think that is the kind of thing that a lot of people will have looked at and go, reasonably, gone, not for me, not my kind of game.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have probably stopped playing the first Dark Souls because they've gone left and got killed by skeletons over and over.
Skeletons.
And then they go, well, this is hard, not playing this. Well, all they had to do was go.
Yeah, but not that right. That down, not that way. God, not that way.
Oh God,
you fool.
no.
Anyway, but this kind of thing is completely revised in Elden Ring. From the beginning, you are given a really real strong hints as to where to go. The first thing that we've talked about before is that you have a map around which you can fast travel whenever you want, as long as you're not actually in combat then. So you can't warp out of trouble like you can in Breath of the Wild, but you can open the map just about at any time and warp to a site of grace, which is the new name for bonfires, like any one that you've unlocked. You also have a mount, which is brilliant just in terms of speed, but even more so than that, the game gives you really, really strong prompts as to the critical path of the game. It's an open world game. It wants you to explore. It wants you to go off the beaten path. But in what is completely new for the series, the beaten path is really obvious. And the way it does that is with yellow glowing lines that project from sites of grace towards your next objective. If you look on the map, you will be able to see basically an arrow from the most recent important site of grace that just points, go this way. And actually, it doesn't take away from the experience of exploration at all, because you just head out in that direction, not really knowing what you're going to find, and then something big will loom out of the landscape. So you still get that really authored feel to the world. It doesn't feel like you're being guided, you're not on train tracks or anything. I think if you're new to the series, it's smart, because you can play Elden Ring, you can love it, then you can go back and play Bloodborne and Demon Souls and these games that just don't tell you anything about where to go and what to do. And there is absolutely something wonderful about that. But I think for people new to the series, this is
to get used to the mechanics and the style of the game. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically had a map of Luke Westaway telling me what way to go.
Oh yeah,
which definitely helped.
my somewhat fallible GPS memory of the way around.
This way, no.
No! Stop moving the camera. Now go left. Combat is what these games are all about. You can talk to me about world building and haunting vibes and deep mythos story, but I think the reason that people play these games is because it just feels bloody good to swing a sword around. And I think the actual feel of the fighting is what no other series has managed to come close to capturing, just that brilliant, flawless feel. And Elden Ring feels great. I would say it feels very, very similar to Dark Souls 3. So it's got the speed of Bloodborne, but it's got the kind of like heft of Dark Souls 3. If you are getting into the series now, I think this is the one to play because it has combat that is basically the accumulation of many games experience. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that there are several new combat mechanics that are just going to make it so much easier for new players to get involved. As you'll know, Ellen, but you might not know if you haven't played many of these games, apart from just locking onto something and like rolling and blocking and strafing around it and trying to hit it when it's finished doing its attack animations and stuff.
Come on.
Exactly. There are ways you can inflict way more damage, things like parries. Yep. And backstabs. Well, there's a new one, and it is easier to pull off than either of those because, and I can only speak for myself here, the first Souls game I played was Dark Souls 1, and I basically got through the whole game not doing any backstabbing or parrying until the final boss when I realised that was like the easiest way to beat it. If you've not played one of these games before, and if you've played a lot of these games before, you may have forgotten that it's a lot to bear in mind, and that actually figuring out how to manage your stamina and like the spacing between you and an enemy, and until you've played it so much that kind of thing becomes unconscious, I think trying to do stuff like backstabbing and parrying is always going to be secondary.
And they don't really like tutorialize it to you in any way.
Not enough. The tutorial area is like, here, how's it get to get a backstab? And there's a kind of zombie that stood there motionless being like, here's my back!
Yeah.
Stab away! And you know what? Half the time on that tutorial zombie, I screw up the backstab.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess.
Yeah.
You start to get a feel for it, and once you get a feel for it, it can be done. But for new players, you are going to be so happy with the new technique, guard counter, and basically all you have to do is keep your shield up, and when something hits your shield, you hit R2 for a heavy attack, and there's a kind of whooshy sort of effect that shows you got it right, and you kind of attack with a lot more force, and there's a very, very good chance that if you're attacking enemies in the starting area, or anything that's not a gigantic enemy, that it's going to stagger it, and then while it's staggered, you can like waddle up in front of it, position yourself just right, and tap R1. To do the cool sort of execution-y parry kind of riposte move. The reason that I think it's going to be so good for new players is because to do it, you just need to have your shield up. Whereas trying to do a parry is very, very high risk in the Souls games, because if something swings a sword towards you and what you're trying to do is move your shield away and go like, I parry you! Oh no! My guts! It's so good to see a new technique added to the roster of like backstabs and riposte and parries and stuff that is so much more user-friendly and so much more easy to learn. It's not going to save your bacon in every situation, because the trickiest thing I found was that you have to only use it when the enemy is finishing its combo. Because if an enemy's going like 1, 2, 3, and when it goes 1, you go, aha, now I hit you, then you just get hit with 2 and 3, exactly. So there's definitely still some like technique and some artistry to figuring out the right point at which to do it, but it is so cool, and I'm really glad that they've added it, because I think it's just going to make those cool like special animated ripostes so much more accessible than they've ever been for new players to the series. Tutorial screens. Now, all of the Souls games have tutorials if you are happy to believe that a tutorial could be walking over a sign that tells you what button to do do the thing.
The little liney lines,
and
if you haven't played them.
But they just don't begin to like accurately convey the breadth of what you're expected to do in this game. They just tell you the basic controls, and then it's like, all right, well, you figure it out. Whereas Elden Ring, if you play the first 6 hours, when you encounter something new for the first time, everything will freeze, a big thing will come up, with very clear explanatory text. And I know that there will be some people watching who are like Souls aficionados who will be kind of recoiling at this because they'll be like, my immersion. But this is going to make aspects of the game accessible to people in a way that they never were before. One that really, really jumps out at me is summoning and co-op. Which is one of, like, for something that is a really core part of the game, like, you can play all these games entirely in co-op.
Yeah.
And it's great fun.
Yeah.
But most people don't, because, like, it's very hard to figure out how.
And sometimes it's like something that's unlocked way later in the game. But like
you normally need an item and it's not clear what the item is, and you're picking up so many items, and
you can miss that item.
Yeah.
And like we tried to do like just test the co-op to see if it worked. You know, for in future if we want to do co-op on the channel, and it just wasn't working. It wasn't, and all it was that we were in the wrong bonfire area.
Yeah,
we should have gone to a different bonfire and it would have worked, but we didn't know.
And the game doesn't tell you. And there is something valid and wonderful about figuring stuff out for yourself, but there comes a point where you are making something very, very obscure and difficult that should be really obvious.
Yeah.
Something really just simple and mechanical, like how to do co-op and how to do summons.
That's the stuff that you shouldn't have to go on the wiki for. You should go on the wiki for the cool lore and things like that, not like how to do something quite basic that most other games do.
Yes. It is the kind of thing that they did in Sekiro. It's not, like, completely new. This did happen, like, you know, there in that game. But I'm happy that these big full screen, stop everything, here's what the hell is going on, here's where you are, let me tell you all about it, and then press X when you're done. Fighting is more flexible than it's ever been in a Souls game, I think. So you are going to have more approaches to this. Stealth returns from Sekiro, which means that, like, you know, you could always stealth in this game, but like it's a way more valid and powerful play style. You can create a build around being very, very stealthy. I don't have footage of this, but when I was playing, I found an item that has unlimited uses, and whenever you use it, you turn into whatever the nearest object is, like a bit of furniture. And you can use it whenever you want. It uses a tiny bit of FP, which is your sort of mana.
Yeah.
And like I turned into a tree, and then you can glide around as like a JPEG of a tree. And enemies are like, is that tree moving? Yes, let's kill it. But it's it's like a stealth tool, and it's so good. And it's a lot like the chameleon spell, but you get this really early. Yeah. It's really obvious what it does, and like it's really easy to. You get these unlimited uses. So like they're just basically giving you. It feels like they care less about the game being like balanced, and it's still really hard.
Yeah,
it's still really hard. But they're just throw everything at it. Do all of this wild stuff. Magic is looking way more exciting and overblown than it's ever been in Souls games. Yeah, it just looks extremely cool if you're the kind of player who, if that sounds appealing to you.
Pyromancy folks out there, you people who like casting your moon spells.
I don't go in for it personally, but I'll tell you what I do go in though personally.
Yeah.
Because Ellen, I generally like to play like a strength build. For Elden Ring, they've brought back something that was only in Dark Souls 2 called Power Stance.
Oh yes.
Which is where basically you can have similar types of weapon in each hand, and if you have the requisite stats in strength and dexterity, basically you get like special move sets that only appear when you have these two similar weapons, and you can it's like no shield, and this can be, you can have enormous great swords while you're doing this, or you can have like just in Dark Souls 2 there was a really strong just like bare fist weapon that you can just like that and things die. Also, spirit summons in Elden Ring, which are the kind of Pokemon-style ghosts that you can like summon. You can't summon them everywhere, but in boss fights and in like many areas where like it would be useful to have a few AI allies, you can conjure them. One of the great things about these games is that they've always presented you with many different and equally powerful and interesting ways to fight your way through the game. I think in Elden Ring, I think if you've not played one before, Elden Ring is going to give you the clearest route into those different play styles. I think if you're playing Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, you can play them in many different ways. But probably, if you've not played one before, you're going to have a sword and a shield and basically be a knight, because that's kind of what the game presents you with. That's on the box art.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of what people are picturing when they picture Dark Souls. I think Elden Ring, hopefully, is going to be a lot more from the get-go. You have all of these options.
Yeah.
You do, sword and shield is not the de
only,
facto. Anything you want to do is the default position. And I hope that people will find that very appealing if they've never played one of the games before. So if you haven't played many or any of these games before, you might not be aware that generally when you're creating your character, you get the option to go into the game with one item. It's called your starting gift. Normally.
It is
Great
a gift.
Yeah. It is a gift.
It's a gift.
It is a bad gift because normally they basically all suck but it's really hard to make that decision. In Elden Ring, I could be proven wrong in the fullness of time, but I think there's a real obvious choice.
Right.
One of the starting gifts you can get is a golden seed. At any site of grace, which is what bonfires are now, you can use it to upgrade your flask of crimson tears, which is your healing flask,
item.
with one extra charge, which is incredibly valuable. And
Especially early doors,
really early on in the game, actually, you find another one. So if you take the golden seed as your starting gift, you can have 5 heals, basically 5 swigs from your healing flask. 6 if you don't mind sacrificing your FP drink, because it does the same thing in Dark Souls where you can reallocate kind of flasks between recovering magic and recovering health. I'm worried that I'm talking now in such a complicated way about flasks and upgrading flasks that actually I'm really putting off new players.
Okay, new players, don't worry. Health, magic.
Health is good.
Okay, if you don't really use magic, you can make it a health. Basically how it works.
Obviously, I only got the chance to pick one starting gift, so maybe the other starting gifts are secretly really powerful and good, but I read the descriptions. They didn't seem good. But the golden seed.
Mighty dragon, thou'rt a true-born heir. Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights.
Here's why I think if you're interested in playing a Souls game, this should be the one you should play. From what I've seen so far, the boss fights are the biggest, the wildest, the fastest, the hardest. The boss fights I've done, there isn't footage of all of them available to watch, or at least at the point of making this video, but they are so bonkers.
Extravagant, would you say?
So extravagant. They are just the Souls boss fight formula dialed up to 11. Now you might be thinking, if I'm going to play my first one, maybe I don't want the wildest, hardest, most bonkers fights, but I think you actually do. And I think this is the point where I get to do a little treatise on the concept of difficulty. Because people are fairly put off these games by the fact that they are quote unquote difficult.
And prepare to die.
Exactly.
And good scrub, all that sort of stuff.
They really lean into it. Everyone who's completed one of these games benefits from the myth that they are very, very difficult. Because you completed it and you're like, good. It was hard. And they are hard. But all we mean by hard is that you will have to do the same thing many times before you succeed at it. And this is the thing. All of that time that you are doing the same thing over and over again, if it's fun all the time, then it's great. Then that's a great game.
And because I played another game recently. I talked to you recently about playing Final Fantasy VII, the remake, and there was a boss, and it took several goes to beat, And when I finally beat it, I was like, oh, thank goodness that's over. Dark Souls 3 bosses, when you finish them, or like any other Dark Souls boss, you're like, oh, that was good. I won't get to do that again unless I replay the beginning of this entire game.
Kind of miss them.
Oh,
Kind of miss them after they're gone.
that was...
Yeah. This is the thing. It's difficult because you have to do it over and over again to get enough practice to do it. But if it's fun, really genuinely fun, all of those times, then it's just a fun game, and like you're having just as much fun as if you were playing any other video game, I think. And like in my 6 hours playing Elden Ring, I spent 1 hour 45 minutes of that being killed by the same boss over and over and over, because I really desperately wanted to see what was past it. And really, actually, the game was giving me strong hints that, like, you probably should go and, like, level up and explore the open world, because I was on the critical path. And I was like, I only have 6 hours. I have to see as much far into the future as I possibly can. So, you know, but every single attempt was really, really fun. And I did not beat it. I you know, like a couple of times, just like a little sliver, a couple of better decisions. But by that point, my, like, heart was going so fast that I'd, like,
Panicked,
the controller
yeah,
just slipped out my hands, slipped out of my sweaty hands. Even though I didn't beat that boss, I had an absolute whale of a time fighting it every single minute that I was fighting it, because it feels so good to play. And I think that's the reason that Elden Ring is a great one to start with, because if this is the one where the bosses are like bigger and meaner and, you know, just more in every sense of the word, which is how I think they're shaping up to be,
Yeah.
then like this is the best opportunity to get a feel for that. Doing the same thing over and over again, if it's fun every time, you'll know quickly. If you play Elden Ring, you will know it will quickly give you a real tough fight, and you will know quickly whether or not fighting something over and over again is for you. And I think you might be surprised.
Yeah.
If
I was surprised.
Yeah.
When I started playing Dark Souls, I was just like...
We're both really late to this series, but
Yeah.
you know.
I think, yeah, and then if you like it, you go back and play the other games, and it'll be way easier, because they're easier bosses, right?
Probably will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Another great reason that this should be your first Soulsborne game, if you've not played one, is that it's about to come out and everyone is going to be playing it at the same time. Figuring out how to, like, deal with and unlock this puzzle box of a game, being part of, like, the online community trying to do that is a really, really fun experience, and it does change things. If you haven't played Dark Souls 1 before, but you play it for the first time now, that game is completely mapped out. It is like a coconut cracked open, and all of the delicious goo has already been like
Devoured and put up on wikis. And...
Exactly, and that's great because like you can find your way through the game, and like the mystery has been dispelled
A little
somewhat.
bit, yeah.
You know, I played Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice
Yeah.
when it came out,
Yeah.
and actually there was something really, really cool about like looking things up, being on forums,
Yeah.
looking at YouTube videos, reading the comments from other people being like, this didn't work for me. When I went here, this didn't show up. Like, all that kind of stuff. There's something really nice about figuring it all out together. Plus, you're never going to have more people to play online with. And an Elden Ring definitely wants you to do co-op. It wants you to do, you know, PvP. It wants you to summon in, and it wants you to be summoned into, you know, to help other people with boss fights and difficult things. With the most people playing, as long as the servers hold up. They did so many network tests, so it's gotta be fine.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a better time to play it, really, than when it first comes out. So I think, you know, that's a good reason why this one should be the first. Don't play any others first. Do this now, because this is the one that is coming out. Hopefully, I have made an alright pitch there, and I didn't freak everyone out by just talking loads about like parrying and flask reassignment and other boring stuff like that. This game feels like it's setting out with a mission to be the most accessible, and by that I don't mean easy, I mean accessible Souls game. I think the game is going out of its way to go, hey, new player, welcome aboard. I'm going to kill you now. I'm going to do it again. But we're having fun.
Get used to it. All right, you enjoyed it? Yeah? Don't worry.
Yeah, but we like the.
We're having
a good time.
good time. We're getting
Having a good
better.
time.
We're
Yeah.
improving.
So I hope I've made a good pitch. Hop on board, drink the Kool-Aid, try Elden Ring, and also thanks for watching this video, and maybe try watching some of our other videos about what should we recommend?
Well, I would say
Souls Academy,
Academy,
Dark Souls 1. Go watch that.
I'm in, and also we did a Dark Souls list.
Yeah.
About what was it?
I don't remember. Easiest ways to screw yourself over.
That's it.
Yeah. On screen now. Watch them. Bye.
Which hopefully you won't do in Elden Ring.